bed when we have slumber parties.
Jennifer's evil.
I know.
No, I mean, she's actually evil, not high school evil.
Jennifer's Body was directed by Karyn Kusama, written by Diablo Cody, and stars Amanda Seyfried and Megan Fox, and is a story of two high school best friends who've known each other their whole lives. Needy, played by Seyfried, and Jennifer, played by Fox. On one innocent night, the two go to a bar to see an indie rock band called Low Shoulder. The entire place burns down, but the lead singer insists on taking Jennifer with him in his creepy van, and the two get separated. When Jennifer shows up later that night, she's covered in blood, eating chicken off the floor and barfing up black liquid, and soon enough she gets an appetite for human flesh. Jennifer's Body is a very unique film in that it has gone through quite the evolution in regards to how it was received. Initially, the film was received very poorly, and there's still a lot of people who don't like this movie. Critics didn't like it all that much. People haven't liked it all that much either. I first saw it a few years ago when my wife showed it to me. One of our earlier Halloween specials we did called Scary Movie Binge. She wanted me to see Jennifer's Body. I had never seen it because of that reaction. Sometimes when the public really hates a movie, I'm like, whatever, I'll check it out anyway. You know, sometimes opinions differ, but everybody seemed to hate this movie. So I skipped it. I didn't watch it until my wife suggested it, and we did it for that video. It was near the end of this marathon that we did. It was like 4 or 5 in the fucking morning. We had watched all these movies, and then we watched Jennifer's Body, and we still watched, I believe, The Orphanage after that. And so after seeing Jennifer's Body, without really being able to pay attention to it all that much, I said I thought it was all right. Over the years, I have wanted to watch the movie consistently more often. Since then, I've seen it 3 times. I've watched the feature commentary, I've shown it to friends, I've watched it again on my own, and I've really come to love this movie. I think that it's massively misunderstood and extremely mismarketed. 20th Century Fox and their marketing department decided to rely entirely on the sex appeal of Megan Fox. She was fresh off of Transformers at the time, and that is all they cared about. Nearly every poster sold the film in that way, as did the trailers. The Blu-ray for this movie actually has a special feature entitled Megan Fox is Hot. I'm not kidding. You play it, and it's essentially an anime music video montage sequence of Megan Fox looking sexy from the movie. That's all it is. And by far the most embarrassing thing that 20th Century Fox suggested was that Megan Fox appear during live streams on porn sites to promote the movie. Like, I'm not making this shit up. They completely didn't get what they had with Jennifer's Body. And they ruined this movie for a long fucking time.
Somebody was mentioning that at a test screening or you had a test group and somebody was like, it needs more boobs.
I still have the card. So there was a test screening that a kid wrote. They said, what would you improve about this film? And the kid wrote, needs more boobs, and spelled boobs, B-E-W-B-S. And that was the data that was collected and taken seriously.
It's been recently the film has been reevaluated more by people, mostly by female critics. Jennifer's Body is the film that 2019's Black Christmas wishes it was. It's gorgeously directed. The cinematography is actually really good. I know this is strange to hear because the film has this unwarranted reputation, but it's entirely because of an image that a studio constructed for this movie that it wasn't even trying to be. So a lot of people went to this film expecting either a horror film only.
Where are we going? Help me!
When they left her for dead,
They killed you. I'm still here, aren't I?
something inside Jennifer was unleashed on September 18th.
Are you scared?
No way. Revenge is sweet.
I'm not gonna bite you.
Jennifer's Body.
You want it?
Rated R.
Or a movie where Megan Fox is really attractive through the whole thing. This is a dark comedy. Diablo Cody's films like Juno or Young Adult all have a very subversive, edgy bite to them, and Jennifer's Body literally has bite, but the humor is also very much so like that. And if you're not on that wavelength or you don't prefer that kind of dialogue, that's understandable. It can be very on the nose. Characters refer to themselves as female healthcare products, nicknames, and stuff like that throughout most of the movie. And sometimes that can be a little much. But what I love about this movie is, surprisingly, Megan Fox is excellent. She plays a character that is so tragically obsessed with her self-image that she can't even come to terms with the fact that her friend, who socially is lower on the totem pole than her, has a loving relationship with her boyfriend Chip, played by Johnny Simmons, is smarter than her, and is probably going to be more successful than her in the future. The way I look at this relationship between Needy and Jennifer in the movie is it's sort of like that high school friend that you have, and then when you graduate, you're starting to move on. Maybe you're going to college, or you're getting a job, or your life is starting, but your friend is still kind of acting like they're in high school because they just don't want it to end. That's the way I view these two characters. It seems like eventually that's where things are going to go for them. Jennifer's body purposely takes horror tropes that we're used to seeing in movies like this and turns them around. And most of it is because it is from a female perspective. For instance, once Jennifer gets an appetite for flesh, she tends to lure boys to places. She takes one boy into the woods by saying, "Hey, let's go sort some stuff out," and he just follows her. She does the same thing with another boy, and he just goes along with it. When she invites one boy to what he thinks is her house, it ends up being on an undeveloped street filled with houses that have no residents yet, leading him to an unoccupied house with a light on upstairs, and he just willingly goes inside because he thinks he's about to get some. If you just flip that for any other horror film, no girl would ever convincingly just follow some guy into the woods twice or into a weird abandoned house, because Jennifer's victims don't view her as a threat because she's a girl and because they want to have sex. That's really fucking clever. Something else the film did, and it's a bit of a similar statement that the movie Cherry Falls made. Cherry Falls was a not that great slasher movie that actually never had a theatrical release and eventually went to the USA Network, starring the late great Brittany Murphy. In that movie, the killer was going after virgins only. So everybody in the school is like, we need to fuck right now to save our lives, which goes completely against every horror movie ever, where the people who are having sex regularly are usually the people to die first. It was sort of this old ingrained message that premarital sex is bad, and if you do it, you're gonna die. And this film has a similar theme as well, and I'm gonna talk about that now. It's gonna involve some spoilers. So if you've never seen the film, that's your warning. I do recommend it. I think that it is way better than people say. I think in the future it will be regarded more highly than it is now. When Jennifer and Needy meet this indie rock band, they think that Jennifer's a virgin, and Jennifer's not. In fact, Needy overhears this, tells Jennifer, "They think you're a virgin." She's like, "What? Ugh." It's kind of funny. When they take her in their van later, she begins to realize she's made a big mistake, and she thinks that her defense is saying, "I'm a virgin."
Are you even sure she's a fucking virgin, man?
Yes. Yes, I'm a virgin. I'm a virgin. I've never even done sex. I don't know how. So, you guys should find somebody who does know how.
But in reality, that's exactly what they want to hear, because they want to sacrifice a virgin. They're agents of Satan. And if they can just sacrifice one, their indie rock band will be successful, because it's really hard out there for indie rock bands nowadays, which is also fucking hilarious. The point being is that if she had just been honest and said that she's been fucking since junior high, she would have been saved. The film isn't saying that having sex before marriage is bad. It's actually kind of endorsing it. So naturally, some people will probably not like that, and some people don't like that, but that's fine. It's a movie. And it definitely wasn't lost on me that a bunch of dudes are offering up a woman on a sacrificial altar to achieve professional success. The point is, this movie was ahead of its time. And the films that we get nowadays, like 2019's Black Christmas, are so aggressive and so angry with their message that they alienate a large portion of the audience. Jennifer's Body didn't. This is a movie that anybody can watch. Just from my perspective, there's a great male character in this movie. Chip, played by Johnny Simmons, is actually a genuinely good guy. And him and Needy have a loving, healthy, romantic relationship with one another. In fact, at the end of the film, when Chip becomes the classic damsel in distress and Needy has to run to rescue him, I'm actually really sad when he dies, because he's such a nice, wholesome character that you don't see that much in movies like this. And since we're talking about spoilers, if you don't know, Jennifer is a succubus. Since she wasn't a virgin and this indie rock band sacrificed her, she came back to life. So she needs flesh to sustain her life. And so every once in a while, if she hasn't eaten, she starts to look really drained and very pale. And there's this really sad scene where she's putting makeup all over her face to try to hide that. And the sadness is heightened by the fact that her desk is filled with photographs of herself. It's like that's all she cares about is her image, how she looks. Also, J.K. Simmons has the most hilarious fucking wig in this movie. Look at that fucking hairpiece. I love it. Look at him. Something else I like about the film is that it opens with Needy in an institution, and you can tell that something happened to her. She kicks the shit out of this orderly. And you think it's done for shock value or comedy, because the orderly flies back pretty fucking far. Then she punches a tether ball and it just breaks. And again, seems kind of like it's for comedy. But at the end of the film, you realize that after she fought with Jennifer and killed her, she gained some of Jennifer's powers. So that kick and punching the tether ball and breaking it is not just for comedy, it's because she's super strong now. And I love when films can have something presented in one way and then just have it mean something completely different when you watch it again. Listening to the director and writer talk about this film on the commentary, you can tell they're frustrated. There's many portions throughout where they say, that shot, that should have been the poster. Or I wish that was in the trailer. I wish that was on a billboard. And you can tell that they were frustrated by the way 20th Century Fox promoted this movie to people. To put it in perspective, on the audio commentary, Karyn Kusama said that this was one of the first shots they filmed because she knew that if they showed the studio Megan Fox walking down a hallway in slow motion, that would satiate them and they'd leave her alone. That's pretty fucking sad if you ask me. It was promoted mostly to boys, 12 to 14-year-olds who can't even see the movie unless a parent's with them. And that was a giant mistake. And I think it's taken 11 years, honestly, for people to actually start to appreciate Jennifer's body for what it is. Even the first time I saw it, I thought it was all right. It really just stayed with me. And I wanted to watch it every once in a while, like once a year. And I just kept watching it to the point where I realized that this movie has a lot more to offer than most films of its type. I'm going to give Jennifer's Body an A-.
Well, the test screenings were horrible. And I believe that's because of the audiences that were recruited for the screenings.
Which were like frat boys?
Exactly. The studio had a very strong, unshakable belief that this movie needed to be marketed to young men, specifically. So that was who they...
Which came because of me, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
exactly. I got a very memorable email from a marketing person at the studio once, where I had sent him this articulate defense of the film, and here's how it should be marketed. And I said, what specifically are you thinking? And he wrote back, Megan Fox hot, 3 words.
For cutting a trailer together?
That
or just
was
for marketing
in terms
in
of
general?
In terms of what is the value of this film.
Okay.
So that should give you an idea of where they were going with it.
If you hated this movie the first time you saw it, maybe check it out again. Just distance yourself from the marketing, take it out of context from its time, and forget about the imagery that the marketing tried to sell this movie as, and just watch the movie as a dark comedy with horror elements. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to watch the 8th annual Halloween special. I hope you're enjoying it, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.